Michelle Morand left home at 15 to flee an abusive father. One of her coping mechanisms was overeating. She has shed her obsession with her body and is a recovered compulsive eater and founder of the CEDRIC Centre for Counselling in Victoria and Vancouver. She is the author of Food is Not the Problem, Deal with What Is. It is my pleasure to welcome Michelle Morand back to Studio 4 to tell us more. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
So we talked before about food is not the problem, deal with what is. And the what is for you was what? Abuse or something else?
Well, ultimately, I think you could simplify it by saying the what is was a diminished sense of self-worth, low self-esteem that was triggered by experiences of abuse and other experiences in my home and as a child. But really that for all of us, it's about really questioning whether we're safe in the world, whether we can trust others or ourselves, and that questioning makes us feel anxious. And our reaction to that anxiety, if we don't know what else to do, is to find ways to numb to it. That's why so many people turn to drugs or alcohol, gambling, sex addictions, and food.
And you turned to food.
I did.
In a big way.
I did. Emphasis on the big.
And so, when you knew it just didn't serve your purpose, like you ate and ate and ate, and did you gain weight too?
Yes.
Ate and ate and ate, gained weight, and nothing happened in your heart?
No, it didn't solve my problem, because if I was trying to solve the problem of anxiety or underlying stressors in my life and my past or my present or my worries about my future, eating a certain something or other isn't going to help with that. So what did happen, though, as it does for so many others who use food to cope, is I felt worse about myself each time I did that. I felt guilty, I felt ashamed, I felt like a failure, I felt out of control. And that shame that we all feel about our inability to control something as simple as eating and our relationship with food is what makes it so hard for most people to reach out for support, even though they know there's something wrong. So yes, for me it was a long-standing issue of feeling so out of control with food, consistently using food to cope and overeating, and also restricting a lot. I went on diet after diet after diet to try and find that control. I didn't feel like I could find it within myself, so I needed some externally imposed structure, and that is very common.
Do you think most people who are obese have an underlying emotional issue? Or all people, or some people?
I would say, obviously, we need to acknowledge concerns around thyroid, metabolism, health concerns that prevent people from moving their body naturally. Aside from that, yes.
Aside from the physical issues, glandular issues, things like that.
That's
like
right.
Underneath disordered eating.
That's right.
Is an emotional issue, or many.
Yes.
What are the signs, early warning signs, that you could be in trouble with anorexia or bulimia or yo-yo dieting? What are early warning signs?
The very early warning signs
for people.
Right. For anyone, the very early warning signs are eating when we're not hungry more often than not, not allowing ourselves to eat when we are hungry, and eating more than we're physically hungry for once we do start eating. And also a preoccupation with body image, with how we look, that isn't related to health, but is about appearance and acceptance.
When did you know you had conquered that? Because many women, even though they're thin as thin, and some men, still could not strut the beach.
Right.
You know, you just can't. You just think, oh my gosh, my knee's fat.
Right.
Or I've got a little belly.
Right.
I just simply can't. Now, men are a little better at showing off their bellies than women. Not necessarily, well, yeah, I would say pretty much. So when did you know you essentially loved your body, embraced your body, and how you are is just okay?
Good question. It was a progressive thing. I say to clients that the overcoming of the stressful relationship with food, or binging, purging, restriction, is the part that comes first, and then a little bit after that comes the getting over of the body image piece, because we need to see ourselves having a natural relationship with food, which means eating when hungry, stopping when full, no muss, no fuss, not stressing about what we're eating so much as why. And again, eating when hungry, stopping when full.
Sure.
And then once we've seen ourselves do that consistently, usually for a period of about 3 to 6 months, I mean, we've already started to come to a more natural weight for our body. naturally we're feeling safer in our own skin, more trusting of ourselves, more in control in life in general, which we have to be in order to have overcome those patterns. And that's when we can start to really feel comfortable and settle into our body and have a sense of what our natural form is.
Sure. What's going on with someone who doesn't think she or he has an issue, but will only eat 2 lettuce leaves, salmon, low-fat, everything, couldn't possibly sit down and just enjoy a meal because of certain things? You know, they restrict, restrict, don't eat very much, and what they eat is in a certain category.
Right.
You know, I only eat grapes and rice cakes, that's it.
Right. So there's 2 questions in that. One is what eating disorder is that? Which is something called orthorexia, where people are obsessively preoccupied with eating healthy, only eating organic or local, you know, so that in and of itself, that's not a bad thing.
To the point they could not go to a fast food joint, could not.
Right, no, absolutely not. So the other question that you're asking is what's going on underneath for somebody that they're even engaging in that pattern of relationship with food, and that is, again, back to the way that they deal with stress, which is to just numb from it or focus on food and body as a way to help themselves to feel more in control, more acceptable, more secure in the world.
Right. I mean,
approach won't work.
Eating the colors of the rainbow, as they say, and a mostly vegetarian meat as a condiment is a good, healthy thing to do.
It is.
We know that.
Yes.
But sometimes it gets out of control.
Yeah, anytime, again, if we're not allowing ourselves to eat when we are hungry, or we're eating more than we're physically hungry for, we are using food to cope. And if we do that on a daily basis, then we clearly have some underlying stressors that we're not managing well.
Okay, tell me how you help people at CEDRIC Centre. I know you had one in Victoria, now you have one in Vancouver.
Yes.
Where do you begin? Who goes there?
Well, men and women, all walks of life, from teens to 70s and 80s. They can work with us through individual counseling. We have 3-day intensive workshops. And we have an online web-based program that allows a lot of peer support, counseling support from myself, and anonymity, which is really nice, and considering the shame that's often inherent in these issues. And anybody can just call at any time and arrange to come and meet with us, or pick up a copy of the book or CDs or workbooks.
Okay.
We pride ourselves on being able to support anybody with their whatever time commitment they have and whatever financial situation they're in. We have something to help.
Do you work with people who just simply can't lose weight? They're not anorexic, they're not bulimic, they don't binge and purge. They're not obsessive necessarily. They just can't lose weight, and they've checked it out physically. Their thyroid works, their body works, it's not in their DNA.
So if that's the case, and I will tell you, Fanny, that that's rare. That person you just described
is rare.
Is a rare person, because usually what's actually happening, even if they're not aware of it, is they are eating more than they're physically hungry for. If they're maintaining a higher than natural weight for them, all things being equal in terms of metabolism and other health concerns, there is more calories coming in than the body needs. It's that simple, which means that somewhere in there, they're not tuning into those natural signals of fullness. So that's when we would come offer them some guidance around mindful eating and just being more present in their body as they're eating, but also take a look at what might be going on underneath there, what might be going on in their life that's triggering them to feel a little bit stressed and therefore needing to disconnect from the present moment.
And some people who simply can't figure it out have surgery.
Yes, and unfortunately,
bypass type of surgery.
Yeah, we see a lot of those people at the center who come to us after they've had the surgery, because in reality, if you have a higher than natural weight for your body, chances are you are using food to cope. If that's the case, surgery is going to help you to create some degree of restriction, because of course you just can't take in the same amount of food that you used to.
Or you'd be sick. Your stomach is smaller, and there's the band around
it.
I think it's the stomach.
That's right. So what we often see is that people who were, say, compulsive overeaters have the lap band surgery or something like that, and then they become bulimic because they haven't solved the problem that triggered them to need to overeat to soothe and numb and distance from the present moment, and now they can't do that thing they were doing to help soothe themselves, so they try and keep trying.
The cravings are still there, the desire to eat
the underlying
is still
need
there.
is still there.
What do you say to someone who's plump, who says to you as a counselor, I just love eating, and I don't care. And if it kills me when I'm 50, fine.
Those people would never come to see me.
I guess not. I'm a happy fat person.
Precisely. Yeah, I would say, you know, I don't care what you look like or what you weigh. My concern, my role, what I'm passionate about is helping people who are unhappy, who are dissatisfied with their lives or feeling depressed or anxious or unhappy with their body, to understand why that is the case and to help to not feel and be that way anymore.
Sure. Well, there is a joy to keeping fit. There really is.
Yeah.
I hate going, I know. But
But
when I finish,
good.
I'm so happy.
Yeah,
and there are
you know
many
you've
people
done
I know who
something
are
good.
bigger, but fit.
Yes.
Definitely fit.
Absolutely. So it's not about weighing a certain weight or being a certain size. It's about being a natural weight for your body.
Do you work with people who hide what they eat?
Oh, most of the people we work with hide what they eat, yes. Yeah, they'll eat, well, they will say, I was good through the day, or I can keep it together through the day. And then as soon as I get home to the privacy of my home, you know, my family may or may not witness this as well. I might wait till everybody's gone to bed, or I might be comfortable eating certain kinds of foods or larger quantities with my family. But usually, people that I see do the majority of the eating that they're ashamed about or that causes the problem when they're alone.
Sure. And I know you can have an eating disorder at any age.
That's right.
Most common ages would be, or do you know? Like
Well,
between the ages of what? For girls, 14-ish. You know, when they read the glamour magazines and see all the pictures and everybody looks like they weigh 98 pounds.
It's interesting. There seems to be a flow or a continuum to the development of disordered eating. It typically starts with either going straight to binge eating or restriction. But usually, most eating disorders are triggered by restriction. Some form of diet. 98% of eating disorders actually are triggered by some form of dieting or restriction. So we start out with some sense that we're not okay as we are, we need to look differently, or everyone around me is restricting, so I may as well too, so I've got something to talk about. And you're right, that typically does happen in our younger years.
Sure.
Unfortunately, now it's starting at the ages of 8, 9, 10, typically, where girls, you know, young women are so preoccupied with looking a certain way or looking like the model that they're really trying to modify their form, and it hasn't even developed yet. So when we work with clients who are in their late teens, 20s, even 30s, who have had these problems with restriction and overeating and that vacillating back and forth for so long, the truth is they don't even know what a natural weight for their body is.
Sure, very few people in the world have not been on some kind of weird diet.
Only 9%
once or
of
twice.
women never diet. 9%.
9%. So tell me about some success stories out of the CEDRIC Centre.
Wow.
Wellness of body, mind, spirit, I know, but when do people break through, and how do people break through?
Well, we have, or I should say I have, but I have an amazing team, so I always say we, but I've developed a program over 17 years as a professional specializing in disordered eating that just has some very simple, basic tools that help people to prove to themselves, usually within a week, that what's really going on when they're eating when they're not hungry or when they're not allowing themselves to eat when they know they need to is something completely unrelated to food. Now, it might seem like an obvious statement, but to people who struggle with food in that way, they really believe that food is the problem. So the first step is them proving to themselves without a doubt that there's actually something else going on. And then that naturally prompts them to say, what? What is that something else? Now they're invested, now they're engaged, and usually within a couple of months, even if it's been a full-blown anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder for many years, they're seeing significant change.
Oh, interesting, because as you know, it's so complex.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me
Nice to
again.
see you again.
Thank you.
Michelle Morand, if you want more information, it's CEDRICcentre.com.